It's almost like a story out of the movies. A musician receives a letter one day from his biological parents telling him they want to see him and that he has a twin brother. The story of Dan Matthews has been made into a documentary, aka Dan, made by the man himself. He is back in Seoul to promote this documentary and joins us right here in the studio this morning. Good morning. Good to see you again.
How you doing?
You were here last summer, I believe, and you talked about your experience in meeting your parents. And you said at the time that you were too shocked to really absorb everything. How has it been so far? I'm sure you met your parents again this time around.
Yeah.
In fact, your brother is joining us here in the studio too.
He
right?
actually is. He's watching from the side right now.
That's right.
Yeah, it's been pretty. It's just been a huge whirlwind of emotions and things that have happened so far. But ultimately, now that everything's passed, and I've had some time to think about exactly what happened over the summertime, I feel very, very empowered by this new information. I just have this really bright outlook on life now. That I've got this kind of a new start. Yeah, so it's been good.
Okay, so now you've been doing this documentary, and we've been airing it on Arirang TV as well, and YouTube. It's been running simultaneously. Drama Fever. There was also a red carpet event in Los Angeles. So
yeah.
How is all this happening right now? So how are you taking all this in?
It's been really exciting. I think that's the best way to kind of explain it. It's just been very exciting. I've never had so much attention on myself, like ever, and it's kind of like being at your own wedding, but it's not really like a wedding now. And just all this attention that's on you for ultimately a very positive reason. And so,
tell us about some of the specific examples. Give us some examples of some of the responses that you've been getting.
Sure. Yeah, I think especially from the adoptee community, it's been very positive. I think a lot of adoptees have messaged me and have had really positive things to say about being not that this has encouraged them necessarily to do a search of their own, but they've just been really excited to see content that's kind of related to their story. And ultimately, that's what I really wanted to try to get out of this, is to create something very relatable for a community that really doesn't have a lot of content that they can necessarily take ownership over. So I feel really positive about that, and that I think that they've seen it, and it's generally a pretty positive story too. And I think that it's very a happy and a light story. And so I think a lot of people see it and are really, I think, jazzed by the whole idea. And from the non-adoptee community, it's been really positive too. I think that ultimately it's a story about family. And I think that it's, even if you're not an adoptee, you can kind of relate to the themes that we talk about.
Well, it's definitely an inspiring story for all.
Yeah.
And what struck me the last time we met was how self-assured and how confident you are, and you seem to have so much faith in yourself. And you also talked about having self-identity crisis, just going through that, other adoptees too.
Yeah.
So what kind of message do you want to deliver to them through your documentary? And also just I'm sure you've had your own ups and downs in your emotions as you were going through this making of this documentary. And what gives you the strength to carry on at times, at those tough times?
I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know what kind of confidence you're saying, but
we see a very confident man, right? Don't you,
Very
wouldn't you agree?
confident,
Very happy
I don't know.
too.
mildly outspoken at the same time, and they're very expressive as well. So tell us.
I think deep down there's still that uncertainty because everything's still so brand new, and maybe I'm I'm good at, I guess, hiding it, but generally I think, to answer your question, the ultimate message is this issue of identity, and ultimately what makes us, in my relationship to this rock, this family, this friend of mine, how am I related to all these different things, and how do I identify as each of these things? If I was raised by a Caucasian family in America, am I still Korean? How Korean am I? And ultimately, it's been a really interesting story of self-discovery for myself. But ultimately, it's about identity, and how do you identify in this crazy world of so many things going on?
So you're still in this middle of this self-discovery phase, right? So where do you see yourself identity-wise right now?
I think that I feel a lot more Korean than I did. I definitely feel, especially now that I'm back in Korea so soon, I feel like that I've become a lot more confident with my saying that, oh, okay, I identify as being Korean American, versus before I never identified with being Korean American. I identified with being Asian American or something completely different, but never Korean though. So I feel a little bit more confident saying that.
Okay.
Okay, you did say a little thing about confidence earlier on. You're saying you don't know where Minjung sees your confidence, but it speaks numbers. You also are a musician, right? So what do you have planned ahead in your music career?
You've just released an album, I
Yes.
believe.
I did, yeah. I released an album, Stuntman. It was inspired by the trip to Korea and meeting my biological family. And it speaks a lot about the identity issues, though, and the self kind of discovery that I'm going through right now. We just released that, and a lot of the music is in the documentary. A lot of the documentary is in the music, and so it was kind of a companion piece. Very excited about that.
Okay, and you've come here with your brother, and what's one thing that you found out about him that you find surprisingly similar? Like
Yeah.
exactly the same, twins, right?
I think the most surprising thing, this is where I think that it's nature versus nurture, is the idea that we're both really creative people, and I have no idea where that comes from. And so, like, I had a lot of questions to my family about where does this come from, because he's really into hip hop and he actually raps too.
Oh, wow.
And so that was probably the most astounding thing, is to see that even on different continents, it was something that was in us from the beginning. So I'm very curious where that came from.
Yes, it runs in the family.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know where it came from my mom or dad's side, but it's
So I'm
exciting.
curious when the collabo is going to come out.